Great to see you all again. Welcome to Arctic Game Talk, a new edition of this. Together with me today, I have intern from Piteå. It's
Yes.
Isabella Wikman.
Yes.
And you're studying on a higher vocational education, which we call in Swedish YH-utbildning, for a digital strategist. So how is that?
It's really fun. It's a very broad education, so we get to try on many different things in digital marketing. So and just really try it.
Yeah.
For real.
And do you think it's a program that's fitting for game industry companies? Would it be interesting for them to have your competence in those?
Yeah, it's very, like you can apply all of the techniques on any sort of marketing that you need. But then of course, like the gaming industry is a little bit different than maybe other like e-commerce and so on. So
yeah.
It's just that you have to have an understanding of the business and so on.
Amazing. Really, really good to have you here. We're going to talk a bit more about education a bit further into this. I just want to say it's really good to have you all here again. This is the second time we run the Arctic Game Talks, and we hope it's going to be a way for us to communicate to the whole community of all the game developers out there in the northern part of Sweden, and also everyone else who's interested in tuning in. It's just our way to connect our network and help all the developers out there as much as we can during these times. When we were onto the topic of higher vocational training, we actually have 5 new educations that are going to start this autumn. It's going to be one new in Boden. Future Games going to run that one. It's going to be a quality assurance game tester, which we think is going to be really, really good, and it's going to be a good complement to the indie game school up there. And we also have 4 new that's going to start in Skellefteå. It's Future Games run 3 of these. It's a project manager for IT and games. It's a game UX designer and a game programmer. And then we have a separate one called Visual Magic, which is for VFX artists. And all of those are going to start this autumn, and you can actually apply for them now. So if you have friends or family that you think should be in the industry, please tell them to apply. I also want to make a shout out about the comic drawing school at Medefors. I think it's a really, really good school for artists, and I think it's a good way to get into the industry if you're an artist. So that's also something you should apply for. And all these educations are collected at the arcticgamelab.com/academy. You can find it on that site, so you can get the links to all the educations. And that's also interesting. The authority for higher vocational training reached out just a week ago to say that all this education that has been approved, they can now have more students in each class. So hopefully we're going to have even more students for all the educations, which is going to be good for the region with even more students around. But you should apply for them as soon as possible. I also want to say that we for Arctic Game Lab, we started to looking into doing more digital events. We arrange game jams, of course, and we used to have open boxes, which is like meeting places once a week where you meet and develop games, or you work on your artistry or so on. And we have started now to make them as digital as possible, so we still can do them during this Corona crisis.
You had one.
Yeah, we had
this
one.
weekend?
We had one yesterday, and it worked out really, really well. And we're gonna try to improve them even more before we roll it out to all the municipalities, and hopefully we can arrange a big game jam here in June. We also want to mention that we actually, for the Arctic Game Talks, we have built a great studio here in Skellefteå, and it's available for all the companies around here that wants to do video talks or have a Kickstarter they want to support or so on. So that's usable for everyone in the region. And we also have more technology that has been bought, more computers and so on. So if you need to borrow for a student, or if you need to borrow for something that you want to do, you can contact us and we'll try to get the equipment that you need. So that's some news when it comes to Arctic Game Lab. I also want to mention that if you have more news or things that you want us to mention, you can always email us at news@arcticgamelab.com. That would be really, really great. We just want to promote as much as possible what's happening here. And more to local news. We have a guest. We have Peter Levin here. We have some news when it comes to Goodbye Kansas. And that is that Goodbye Kansas Labs was actually acquired 1st of April by personnel in the company. So I think we should let Peter into the discussion. Peter is chairman and co-founder of Goodbye Kansas Labs, or Goodbye Kansas. So he's joining us from Stockholm. So welcome, Peter.
Thank you very much, Johan and Isabel, for inviting me. And well, yes, it is. And as Johan said, I'm the CEO and founder of Goodbye Kansas group of companies. And we have been working with Johan and the Skellefteå team for many years now. And we decided just recently to actually, as Johan said, sell Goodbye Kansas Labs back to the staff. And the reason to that is, even though it's heartbreaking in a way, we love Skellefteå and love the Labs team, of course. They have done wonderful things over the years. We think that by being neutral, by being their own platform, not owned by Goodbye Kansas, we can be an even better partner to Labs going forward. So that's the simple reason. We will continue to support northern Sweden with focus on Skellefteå and other cities in the northern, both when it comes to the new education, visual magic that Johan, Magnus and everybody else at Labs works hard with, and also indirectly to Arctic Game Lab as well. As you know, I've been 30 years in the industry, in the game industry, so it's a big part of my heart and soul. So we will continue to support everything that happens in that region. So I think that's if there are any questions, maybe, or if you have any questions, Johan, do I forget anything?
No, but I think it's really, really good just that you can be here and try to point things out. If there's questions, we have actually a Q&A tool down in the bottom. We will have a Q&A session in the end of this one, this talk as well. I don't know if you'll be able to stay for that, Peter. Otherwise, I'll try to cover for you. But I think it's good just to raise the attention about this. And the important issue here is that Goodbye Kansas Labs is so closely connected to Arctic Game Lab and everything that's happening. And I don't know, I think it might be worth just to mention that the Arctic Game Lab won't be affected in any way. It's probably just going to be easier to do things up here. So that's going to be positive for the Arctic Game Lab, I would say. I also think, will this mean that Goodbye Kansas will pull out of the north with your engagement and so on? How are you thinking about that?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, everything that has happened over the last 3 years or so is really important for us, and it's even more important now in both areas, both Arctic Game Lab and now with the new visual magic and the new educations that will grow from you guys as well. So we will absolutely try to be your best partner going forward as well, and north of Sweden is extremely important for us. So we'll continue to support that.
Fantastic. That's great to hear, Peter. All right, thank you very much, and please stay if you want to, and we'll go on further. Next news, we have Flattail, a local Skellefteå studio. They just released their Kickstarter, hoping to go forward. And the interesting thing with the Flattail is that they're based on, or they're built quite a lot upon a big influencer called Bikini Body, which has literally millions of followers. So it's the thought is to actually build a game for the crowd. And I think that could be a really interesting way to do it. And of course, they have lots of followers, so hopefully they can actually get the game kickstarted. I know they're looking for $50,000, and I think they already have 10% covered. So hopefully they'll be able to do that. And I thought we could just see a video from their game.
And welcome to our Kickstarter for Last Farewell. Last Farewell is a survival royale. Just like a normal royale, your objective is to be the last person standing. However, we focus on surviving by working with your competitors in order to survive as long as possible together. But that does not stop anyone from backstabbing or pulling tricks on each other. Last Farewell is aimed to be a very social game, encouraging multiple playstyles, both good and bad ones. To contribute to the replayability of Last Farewell, every map is unique, with unique layout and loot spawns. Some maps may spawn with unique weapons, whereas some maps won't. During the day, you will want to scavenge for weapons, food, medications, and trash, which you can use to create traps or other upgrades for your main base, which will need to be protected every night from a horde of puppets, who are the main zombie-like enemy in our game, the other enemy being other players. We hope you check out our full Kickstarter, and we'd love if you would consider donating to us. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I think we can switch back. All right, super. So that's the game. We will try to link it in the chat so you can find the Kickstarter. Please go in and support and spread it to all your friends and family and so on. We of course hope that they will get a Kickstarter and continue to develop on that game. That would be amazing. Last local news that I think would be interesting is actually about the Swedish Tax Office. They're currently offering a time-limited reduction of employers' social security, and that could actually apply for game companies as well. So I think it would be wise just to check it out and see if it could apply for your company as well. Could be interesting. We're gonna post that link as well in the chat so you can find it. Super. That's it. So over to some event updates.
Yes. So we have the Nordic Game Conference that is still planning to take place in May, and it's the biggest game conference in the Nordics. And so they just hope to go on as usual, but also they plan on having some digital version of the event.
Yeah,
So
it's an interesting mix. They say they're going to follow the regulations of the Swedish authorities, which sets a limit of 50 persons. So it's going to be interesting to
Right
see how
now.
they move forward.
yeah, we'll hope it will go out well.
Yeah.
So, and also the GDC summer, they will take place in San Francisco, but they have postponed it to the 4th to 6th of August. So
That's also
some
going
of
to
them
be
are postponing, some of them.
absolutely. That's also going to be interesting. Saying it's so close to Gamescom, which also hasn't postponed yet. So it's the events coming up this year is going to be interesting to see how they move forward.
Yeah, and also we have the Finnish Slush. They actually now cancelled, so they can refocus and help startups in the crisis and so on instead. And they don't rule out maybe a smaller event in a digital form.
Yeah, but that's also interesting just to see that because Slush is late November, and they're already starting to cancel. So it's going to be interesting to see how everything turns out this autumn. Super, thank you very much. Now let's head over for the guest of the week, the High Priestess of Raw Fury, Andreea. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So, I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see. Is it working?
Yeah, it's working great.
Cool, thank you. It's actually the first time for me to hold a digital talk, so this is interesting. But it's funny how we can so easily adapt in this industry. So we are lucky to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Arctic Lab, for taking this initiative and adapting so fast to this setup. And it's very interesting, all the news you shared with us. Yeah, and yeah, you guys are doing such a great job if, in order for us to be able to stay home, take care of ourselves, and take care of the dear ones. And I think everyone is appreciating that.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Andrea. I also want to point out that if you have any questions during this talk, just write them in the Q&A tool, and we'll go through them all at the end.
Definitely, and I'm also just curious to hear how is it going for all of you now being at home. What are you working on? Are the creative juices flowing now more than usual, or is it a struggle for you guys and you just take the opportunity to catch up with Netflix or playing games? I definitely do, but yeah, let me know how is it for you as well. So yeah, I was invited here today to talk about games, for you guys to listen to me while I like share my thoughts about games. Um, so I'm gonna start by saying that through my work, I have the humble opportunity to talk to many talented developers, and quite often when I ask them what kind of games they are making, what kind of games you guys are making, it is very common to hear, the usual action, adventure, shooter, roguelike, like the genres. And these terms, of course, they're very useful, but for me, and I know that for us at Fury, and most likely for many people out there, games are more than just the genre itself that usually used to define them. So today, I just want to share with you some of my thoughts about these aspects, some of my thoughts about publishing games, some of my takeaways. Um, but as I said in the beginning, would like to hear from you as well. All of you, I'm sure you have so variable experiences and very interesting opinions. A little bit about myself for those who don't know me so much. I started working in the games industry 10 years ago. For me, it was a lucky coincidence, a very happy coincidence. Myself personally, I did not grow up with games as much as many of you, I'm sure you did. I just had like a Sega console when I was young, and I was playing Age of Empire at the computer at my school in my hometown. I come from a small town in Romania where I grew up with my mom and my sister. So, like, I never heard that there is a games industry, and never crossed my mind that people could have fun jobs doing games. It was always like, you need to study well, you need to get a good job. But years passed, and after disappointing my mom for not wanting to become a doctor, and instead getting into business school without any clear goal. I was studying hard. I was also partying hard. And then the first thing I've done, I tried my business skills into a small company in a totally different industry, in the elevators construction industry. It didn't go so well. So I decided I should get a job, and serious job, learn from someone else first. So I applied for this job that sounded to be for an IT company. And when I got to the interview, I heard it was a games company, which for me was like mind blowing. And lucky me, I got the job, and here I am. Quite a few years after, still in the games industry, because it's a very nice place to be. So yeah, then with that job, the gates to the gaming world opened to me, and I had here a nice animation it was supposed to work. Let's see. Sorry. No, doesn't want to work. Anyway, you guys imagine like some gates, golden gates opening, and then a lot of games coming. Yeah, so I worked for this company, Romania, called AMA for a few years. It was a sister company of Ubisoft and Gameloft. It was a great experience, learned so many things while we were working with a lot of mobile games, publishing, developing mobile games. And after that, I had the chance to move to Sweden and join Paradox Interactive, where I worked with them on the sales team, business development, also with the mobile initiative. Another great opportunity for me. And 3 years ago, I decided I would like to join a smaller team and work closer to developers and make use of my experience. And the opportunity came for me to join Raw Fury, which is a publisher, a game publisher. We are publishing boutique games. Sometimes people, even ourselves, sometimes we use the term indie, but I think it's quite misleading. So I would try to go with boutique games at this point. And yeah, we work very close to our development teams. Um, so these are some of the games, only some of them, a handful of games that we've been working with. It's a very, I think like at Raw Fury we have a very nice mix of games. And quite often we receive the question like, what kind of games you guys are publishing? And it's quite hard to answer because from where I come, I feel we're working with not with like specific kind of games, but with a spectrum of emotions. So we choose our games a lot based on the emotions. Also, like if we feel that okay, this game has something that makes it different, it doesn't check, those commercial checklists that some other publishers have. Like, yeah, we feel that that is a game for us. Um, and you could see here, like Kingdom is one of the most well-known games we've been working with, which is side scrolling platformer. You don't have to attack. Is about being passive. It's about resource management, exploration. You just run away, you plan, you strategize, you recruit, but without using any force. It's a lot like the Swedish management style, I would say. Very friendly. Take your time, strategize. Then you have here, if you see like down, there is Dandara, which for like I find like it's a very special game for me. Not necessarily because of the game mechanics, which are amazing, but for me it's very special because it is an homage to a heroine, to a Brazilian woman who fought for who fought um, yeah, against, oh sorry, I cannot find my word, um against resistance. So but they took this lovely historical figure and adapted it into a Metroidvania adventure of kick-ass powers. So it's a lot of about empowering women and embracing heritage, which is very nice. Then Nightcall um, is a game. It's a very touching game. It's a poetry about common people, about their stories that will put you in a particular mood. And then we have Mosaic there on the right corner. That is just a lovely cinematic exploration. So, like all these games are more than genres. They are like just a big abundance of emotions. So now I'm just going to make a short parenthesis to explain a little bit like why like I'm saying these things. I'm gonna start with sharing a picture of my niece and nephew. So myself, I have family in several countries. My some of my family is based in Japan. So my niece and nephew here in the picture, they are living in Tokyo. This is a picture from when they were quite young. Now they are 15 and 11, so they are much older. Um, and last time when I saw them was 6 months ago. But looking at the unfortunate events that are happening around us, I'm not sure when I will be able to see them again. So the distance, the time zone difference, the culture, the language, they have been quite big barriers for us, but now it's even harder. We feel it even more. And um, no matter how much I believe that I'm the cool aunt because I work in the games industry and I always send them games, um, they still don't like chatting and exchange messages with their 30 something years old aunt. So I had to try to find different ways of connecting with them, because they are so dear to me. So the way we are doing it is through gaming. So for example, today at 11 o'clock our time, I have a gaming session with my niece. And we started doing this on a regular basis since the crisis of the corona, and since she is home as well. So, and we are playing Splatoon 2 at this point. I am very bad, but this is the only way for me to chat with them. So for us, gaming is the way to come together, bring us together. And I know that gaming is an universal language for so many of us. And it helps so many of us to connect with friends, with family, to bring us close to the dear ones. But we have different needs, I would say. So myself, I have days when all I need is just some comfort, food, and some comfort for my soul, being cozy in front of the TV, in front of staying on the sofa. And I have days when I feel down and I just want to get lost in a game and follow a character story. um I know if my confidence is it's low, playing a game that makes me feel strong and smarter helps me boost my confidence. We all have days when we just want to run away, disconnect a little bit from the life that is happening out there, because sometimes life is hard, and that is okay. And games can help us with that. They can be, our friends, support we need in hard times. Um, so these are some of the reasons like why I am working with games, because I know that by helping putting games out there, I can make someone's day better. So I'm so lucky. I work with this amazing team that helps finding and launching, not just games the way we see it, but these beautiful pieces of art that provide so many emotions. Um, so I find this very, very huge. And if someone would ask me what game to play, I would ask, how do you feel today? um, because at least us as a Fury, but there are so many games out there. We have, as I said earlier, games that show that women can be kick-ass heroines and that your background is so important and you should appreciate yourself. We have games that show that it's totally okay to be afraid. It's totally okay to be anxious. You are not alone in this. If you need some adrenaline, we have games that could help you pump that adrenaline. Um, Games that nourish the self empowerment. And my favorite, as you might gather, like games that bring people together. All these games that have co-op, multiplayer. They are so great for this. And there are also games that just help you relax. They help you meditate, especially if the music, the environment is serene. Um, like I I I sometimes associate games, you might laugh, but with some games with Bill Gates. I'm thinking about him. When he was a kid, he was different than other kids his age. He didn't fit in at school. Um, his family relationship weren't great, but did manage. He did have the love and the support he needed to spread his wings and be amazing. And I think it is the same with games. There are so many different games that stand out, and there are so many people who would say no to them just because they don't check the traditional specifications. It doesn't fit in this pre-established mold. It doesn't have these ingredients for the success formula. But I think that even the most different games, with the right love, with the right passion behind, they can shine. And once released, they can change someone's life. And even if it's only one person you that enjoys it for half an hour or 1 hour, that is incredible. Um, and something that kind of upsets me sometimes, and maybe you experience it yourself, was when you are submitting a game to the store and you did not know which genre to choose in there. And sometimes you have only one option. If you're lucky, you have also like some additional options you can choose. But usually it's like only one. So, and you feel the pain because your game does not feel fit well in any of those categories there. And you feel that you have to chop something, like that's how you feel inside, that you are chopping something from your game, or that you have to sew an additional arm or leg in order to fit that category. And you want to shout that, oh, my game is more than that. My game is the most beautiful fighting experience. It's not just like an action game. And unfortunately, most genre stores and platforms, they have the same genres. Here are some screenshots I took from some of the stores. You can see the first two ones. It's Google Play and iOS. They have exactly the same genres. Then you have GOG, Steam, Xbox, which are a little bit different, but different order, but more or less they comprise the same genres. So like I wonder, like, why do we mold the games in some pre-existing genres when games are more than that? um no, this wouldn't be fair to do it for paintings, for movies, for dance, for any other piece of art. um and not to forget that it makes it so hard for the users to find the game they need for their personal emotional needs just based on these categories. Um, there are also some stores that don't have these categories at all. You just scroll through the store in order to find the game. I don't know if that is better or not. But all I know is that games are pieces of art, and like every art is about emotion, is about the style, and it's less about the techniques that you used for for making them. And this connects a little bit into the second part of this presentation that um, is about some takeaways, some learnings I gathered during my experience in publishing. So first of all, don't forget that your game is a living piece of art. It's full of emotion. Treat it accordingly. Talk about it so that users know what to expect. So this is why it's also important to know what you want your game to be. Is it just an adventure game, or is it a fabulous experience that might fill your heart of joy and curiosity, or that might help you build new friendships? Right? That sounds different than just calling it an adventure game. But it's very important. Do not make it sound like it's something else. You know, when you go to blind date, if you ever done it, or maybe not blind, you maybe it was or you are dating someone from a dating site website, you've seen their profile, and when you are meeting, you realize it's someone totally different than what it was written in their description. you know is the same with games. Make it very clear what the game is about and for what kind of players. Don't surprise them in a negative way when they have their first interaction with the game. Gamers are humans. They are not just numbers buying your games. Treat them accordingly. Try to connect with them on an emotional level. Try to define your audience in terms of gaming behavior, because as I said, they are more than numbers. They are about emotions. And try to leave aside all that all the corporate voice you might have learned in school, that you feel you might need to use in your social channels, or during your announcements. Uh, Forget about the fancy words that anyway most people will not understand or remember. I'm gonna share like here some very nice screenshots from our Twitter account. You know, just be yourself. Use the words that represent you if that is how you feel. Um, Very personal tweet. Lot. Animal Crossing has released. I'm taking time off, but please engage with the tweet. Um, no, there are humans behind all the accounts. Next one, it's about planning, which is very, very important. Like, doesn't matter if you consider yourself a rebellious, free-spirited developer, or if you think you are the most calculated project manager and you're not gonna miss out on anything. Planning is very important. Why? Because no matter how much you plan, many things will not go according to your plan. But at least if you are not going to live in a big chaos, your stress is going to be more manageable. And don't forget that others are dependent on you, that your team, um, the partners you are working with, from marketing, from publishers, if you might have a publisher, from platforms, and especially the and users. So try to have your own milestones, and always check if things are going in the right direction. Don't allow yourself to be blindsided by finding out the day before that an important milestone, oh, it's not going to happen. Always count for minimum 4 additional extra development months. The reality is that many of us, we are optimistic. And when you are working with the art, it's very difficult to know 2 years before or 1 year before how a piece of art, when a piece of art is going to be ready. And games are art. So I would say minimum 4 months. Always consider additional 4 months. If you are considering sim launching on several platforms, add at least 3 additional months to your schedule. And why I'm saying this, think about porting, think about adding each platforms or stores SDK, store achievements, certification period, failing once or twice, submission errors. So many things will go wrong, even if you've done it in the past. So, from my experience, if you have, especially if you have consoles, 3 months minimum. Listen and take advantage of the platform's marketing opportunities. Like, there is so much you can tap into. There are so many announcement opportunities. Nintendo has their own in the Nintendo in the Direct, inside Xbox. PlayStation has some activities as well. Steam, they always create these pages with games announced at different conferences. So opportunities, there are plenty, but they need to know about them, and they need to know that you are going to respect your deadlines, and that you are committed to it. I would say that going cross-platform during these times is less risky. Indeed, it is not always worth it, because it can be very expensive. It's a lot of additional development time. But the reality is that the market is very fluctuant nowadays. And even for those of us that we've been working with sales and forecasts for a long time, it is difficult to predict which store will do better. So I was surprised so many times. Can share with you an example. These graphs are from 2 years ago, but the point is the comparison between the three graphs. So in each graph we have 6 columns. Each column is platform, a different platform. The first one on top is the distribution of the total number of downloads for Dandara in the during the launch of the game. On the second graph, you see the distribution for the same platforms during a sale campaign that we organized that year. And in the third graph, there is the distribution for the same 6 platforms during a random month. So totally different. And like, look, if you see the distribution for each and every game we have at Fury, you'll see that all of them are so different. That is why I'm saying the market nowadays, it's so unpredictable. Look at new markets if you have the opportunities, because same as with the platforms, you never know where your game might be more successful and where an opportunity comes from. Quality is key, no matter of the platform. Like, something that disappoints me quite often is when teams, they port the game to an additional platform, and you can so easily see that the gaming experience is inferior compared to the first platform they released the game on. And this is unfair, especially for the users. Why would users on a second platform be considered, like second level humans? So, they are putting their money, they're putting their time to enjoy your game. Make sure you are considering providing a genuine experience with that platform in mind. And if you feel that you wouldn't enjoy playing the game yourself on that platform, ask yourself twice if it's worth it doing it. Price. Choosing the price for your game, that is very tricky. We have so many discussions about it. The only thing I would say is that you are the only one knowing what is the right price for your game. You know better than anyone how much your game is worth it. For example, like, how could I go to painter, let's say, and tell them how much they should charge for their painting? I wouldn't know how much they worked on it, how expensive their colors are, and how important that painting is for them. And it's same with games. But you might hear gamers, sometimes being upset about the price of the game. They compare to other games. They look at the gameplay time, but they they wouldn't know how much work you put into your game, or how many days you only ate noodles. But what I would say, it is important to try to justify, like, why you think your game is worth it that price. Do not devalue your game. And I will refer the in this case to sales and running sales discount. My advice would be to run frequent smaller discounts, which is better than random infrequent big discounts, deep discounts, because in many cases you just end up losing money if that's your strategy. Be smart about spending your marketing money. Do not try to just copy what others are doing. So first of all, you might not have the budgets to be able to copy the campaigns of the big companies. And many of these campaigns are successful because they can reach a big number of users. So ask yourself, are paid ads maybe the right tool for you? Would you know how to do it in order for them to be successful? Is PR, media articles, something that would help you? Why not try to come with your own campaign? Since you are making this unique product, you are the one who would know it best and who can decide which community what kind of community you want to build around it. But also try to be creative. Some ideas, very innovative, very good ideas, can come and can be done with very low budgets. From my experience, users are less forgiving when they are paying, no matter how much they paid for a game. So you might hear complaints about the price, but I feel that their complaint is actually about the quality, or about the feeling that they bought something else than what it was sold to them. That's why it is very important that your marketing matches the game. Practical advice: artwork should be readable from 6 feet away. So, try to test your key art both on small devices, because someone might see your game page on their phone, or from like 4 meters distance and see if it looks well. If possible, if you have a game for which you are planning a lot of post-release content, we're not talking about small bug up fixes, but post-release content. If possible, I would suggest you to consider a combination of free and paid content updates. And this because many stores do not have the right tools and structure to be able to promote the free content updates. It's not that they don't want to, but unfortunately there are some limitations there. Search terms. Every store has this section. Use it smartly and think about words that sound similar to your game, to your companies. Think about misspellings, think about word associations. Be as creative as possible. Make sure you have a clear marketing strategy that you are sticking to and a clear tone of voice for your game and for your company. But also, if needed in time, if your game changes, becomes something else, you should also be flexible and change your strategy. This is an example of defining the target audience. So you wouldn't see here male, female, age between 12 or 15 and 35. But primary here, gluttons for punishment. Secondary, filthy casual farmers. And then you go deeper into emotions and their gaming behavior. Another campaign idea, going to a farm, recording some video there. This is something we've done for Atomic Crops, or playing around with a website about dating for farmers. And we don't know, are these going to be successful or not? That is hard to say, but what we know is that at least my colleagues had so much fun doing this, and that is very important as well when we work with games. Yeah, this is another example from a campaign. It's an irony about the corporate world. So yeah, we just made this website about a company hiring, and many people actually applied. But this was just part of a marketing campaign for one of our games, Bliblop and Mosaic. The last two pieces of advice that I have: try to make a change in the world. Try to make a game that might make someone else's day better. You have the power to do that. And this is so strong. Finally, forget everything about the market trends and just follow your heart. So this was my session, and I hope I managed to bring some hope during this unfortunate crisis that we are all experiencing. And yeah, sending lots of love to you, all of you.
Thank you.
Super. Such a heartwarming presentation. It's really inspiring to see how you reason.
A lovely dance.
Thank you.
Really amazing. We're going to have a Q&A session if we have any questions.
Yeah, that would be great. Or if others would like to share also how they are spending these days, how is it for them?
Absolutely. So please just write in the Q&A if you have anything, or in the chats, also possible. For me, I think it was a really, really interesting presentation. I had some questions. I thought about this, about testing new markets. How do you have like? How do you do it in a good way? I mean, that's quite hard.
It is very hard, and I don't think there is any good way or any strategy that would apply to everyone. But what is important, and I think it is hard, but it is important to to always stay open and keep your eyes and ears open to what is happening out there, and connect to as many people from different parts of the world. And this is hard, I'm saying, like when you are trying to make a game, to also, always be interacting and staying updated to what is happening in other parts of the world. So if you have the possibility, try to have someone in your team that is more focused on expanding and identifying new revenue streams, because long term is definitely gonna be worth it. And like, you are gonna be surprised like how many stores that we don't know of there are in in other countries, how many new opportunities from having your game embedded on a device, or like even like cross marketing opportunities. All these things add and then can help your game. And another thing is that it's very difficult to predict on which countries and which territories your game is gonna perform better. So like, try to look at the numbers, try to engage your communities, try um, to find these beta users groups in different territories, get their advice, and see if there is potential for your game in a new territory.
Super. We have some questions coming into the chat now. We have from Mark. Do you group your games around feelings they are producing for the game, for the players?
Unfortunately, not at this moment, but that is something we've been thinking about, and something that we would like to experiment with at some point. And we are also talking to the stores and the platforms and see if this is something we could try together at some point, and see if this would be interesting. And something I want to add is that even if you think you are a very small player in this big industry, you should be brave, because maybe a big store like Steam, they never thought about something so small, and it should be something that could change the way things have been for such a long time.
Yeah. Amazing. Also nice to see we have someone indicate from Los Angeles tuning in. They say we would like some help to showcase games. Yeah.
And now we have another question. When you mentioned there are different platforms many people don't know about, which ones do you mean?
So recently, I heard about the fact that Unity has their own store for mobile store, and they help distributing games on several channels in Asia. And I think that this is not so well known. There are several subscription stores for premium games in Middle East, in Latin America, in Asia. Like, China has over 200 mobile stores, Android stores. I am not sure how successful all of them are. There are some PC subscription stores in Latin America. Maybe you guys know about Atomic, maybe you know about Origin. These are more well-known stores, but it's always good to look at the alternative and additional channels as well.
Super.
Maybe we should like create a list with a lot of
It would be
stores.
probably really interesting for all the companies, definitely.
Yeah.
I was also thinking about influencers. Since we have a flat tail here using an influencer, do you have any thoughts about influencers and how to use them? If that has changed over time, is there a do you from Raw Fury have a reasoning when it comes to influencers and marketing?
Well, personally, influencers is not my area of expertise, but I do, and I don't think that there is in this case either like a ideal strategy of doing it. But what I know, it is very very expensive now to work with influencers that have a good return of investment. The micro influencers, unfortunately, they are not as strong. And also, unfortunately, those are the only ones we can afford. Many of us can afford. So, we can still work with that. But I would also challenge every team to try to look sometimes outside the gaming industry. There are lifestyle influencers that maybe might have a new reach for your game, so you wouldn't be competing only like with the same audience, same on the same channels that all the big companies are using, and with the huge budgets.
So Mark S is asking another question. So do you see Asia as a thought leader in gaming innovation?
Wow, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that, because we see innovation from so many different in so many different ways and so many different parts of the world. And innovation, I think, can be defined, like so different depending how you ask. Like some people might think about innovation in games like doing things differently. Some people still consider VR as something innovative, like adapting your game to VR or using eye trackers. Um, I don't know about this.
Yeah. We also have new question from Mark. What's your experience with influencers? Is it better to focus on working with them as opposed to paid UA like FBA, Facebook ads?
I would say it depends. It depends from game to game. It depends of your budget that you have. Um, both activities, marketing activities, can be very successful, and sometimes you can do both and you'll see very low results, because maybe you didn't choose the right influencers, maybe it wasn't the right time, maybe you didn't have the right audience for your game, your type of game. And it's the same with paid advertising. Many of us, we don't know how to reach to the right audience. You just put an ad there that should target everyone, and that is just a waste of money. And from what I've seen, uh, you need to have quite big budgets in order for this to be very successful. So I would suggest maybe trying to build your own community early, start build, like, you start with 5 people, then 10, then they will become 100, and until you finish your game you might have a few thousand that they're going to be your ambassadors. They're going to be so connected to your game because they've been part of the development, and they might promote it at the same time with you. I think that is a good way of thinking about. Um, I'm not saying you shouldn't try influencers of Facebook ads, but you need to know how to do it, and also choose careful which channels and which influencers you should work with. Do your research, do your homework.
Super. So I think we're gonna need to wrap this up soon. We're a bit on overtime. We have one last question.
Yeah, from an anonymous attendee that's
Oh.
asking, what's your favorite Raw Fury game and why?
That is hard. It's very hard. I mentioned Dandara, which like gameplay is kind of difficult for me, but I'm very connected, emotional to the inspiration for the game. I also like Bad North. I love it. It's just this like strategy tactical game. Um, very nice, very fun to play, and there is also an upcoming game that we haven't announced yet that I resonate with a lot. It's very hard because I work with all of them, and each one of them it's special in its own way.
Maybe depending on how you're feeling that day.
Yeah.
That as well.
All right, super. It was a real pleasure to have you as a guest. Super interesting talk. And you're, of course, welcome to tune in to this. We're going to have it weekly, so next Wednesday we're going to have this Arctic Game Talk again. Guest for that week will be Oscar Clark from Fundamental Games. And he's a real senior in the industry, so I think it's going to be an interesting talk to listen to. So please connect next week. All right, thank you very much, and see you.
Yeah.